What's up guys, you're watching Li-Fi TCG. Got a video for you today on a deck I've just been playing in Modern. That is the Lotus Field Underworld Breach Storm combo deck. So the most recent RCQ season has just finished. Locally for me, almost all of those events were Modern constructed. And I played in a few of these. As you can see, I've got the top 8 Awoken Horror / Thing in the Ice promos, but sadly unable to close it out. But I still quite like the deck. I think it's not bad in Modern. You definitely have a few unfortunate matchups, which I might talk about a bit later. But I just want to quickly get into the list, the build of the deck that I am using, because there is a little bit of flexibility in how people build these decks. There's not like a standard list, so to speak, so I want to get into the version that I like. Starting with the mana base, there's 10 Blue Fetchlands, so it doesn't really matter which. There's only 7 here because there's 3 in my legacy deck. I think you just have to use your imagination. So 2 basic island, 1 steam vents, and should be 2 Watery Grave, but again it's in my legacy deck. And of course the 4 Lotus Field. So I think there should be 19 lands. Onto the spells. 4 Street Wraith. It's extra delve food. And it lets you control the cantrips like your Mishra's Bauble, your Otherworldly Gaze. You're often not drawing a random card with your Street Wraith, you're drawing your top card that you know about or that you had control over, which is not an insignificant effect to have access to. The life loss can matter, but in matchups like Burn you can always board them out. Then onto the, we have the untap spells, of course, the quote-unquote rituals for the combo. We have the 4 Dreams Grip, 4 Twiddle. In terms of cantrips, we have 4 Consider, 4 Otherworldly Gaze. It's not really a cantrip, but functions basically like one most of the time. 4 Mishra's Bauble. All excellent cards. You see some people play some builds of the deck where they trim on the Consider, but I don't like that. I think Consider is really strong. Probably want to try and build your deck in a way that you don't have to do that. 4 Wishclaw Talisman, one of the best tutor effects available in Modern. Profane Tutor is a bit awkward because if you top deck it late, you have to wait for it. It's bad versus things like Deferi and Chalice and that kind of thing. Yeah, Wishclaw is great. A few times I did the trick where you hold priority, you activate it, then you untap it with a Twiddle and you activate it again. But that doesn't come up too often, it's just a nice thing to be aware of. Then the combo, we have 3 Underworld Breach, not 4, because the 4th one's in the sideboard, because we're playing 3 Wish in the main deck. Only 3 Wish in the main deck because it gets a bit clunky. It's very expensive, you don't usually want to be playing more than 1 per game. This is the main discrepancy or disagreement between how people build these decks. A lot of people don't like playing Wish. So you end up cutting the Wish. You have to play the win con like Grapeshot or whatever, Thassa's Oracle or whatever main deck. You add the 4th Underworld Breach to your main deck, and usually people add like a 2nd Tome Scour or something instead of those 3 wishes. But I really like the Wish, I think it's strong. Having access to sideboard cards in game 1, like Mind Collapse for Eidolon, or I also won a game, you wish for Chalice of the Void. You wish for Engineered Explosives on 0, help you get rid of Chalice of the Void. those kinds of things are pretty strong. The other thing that's nice too is that in a lot of situations you just get flooded on mana. You can wish for the Underworld Breach in your sideboard, which then flashes the wish back with the escape, and then you get the Tome Scour out of your sideboard, and it gives you access to the full combo with only one card, so long as you have enough mana to start it. And that comes up like a lot. I think that's really strong to be able to do that. I don't think the deck needs so many sideboard slots that like having the fourth Underworld Breach and the Tome Scour and the Grapeshot in your sideboard, like the fact that that cuts into your sideboard slots a bit, and also the wish targets like the Mind Collapse or whatever, I don't think that's that bad because the deck doesn't usually want to sideboard too much in most matchups anyway. Like drawing the Grapeshot is not very good. If you have that in your main deck, for example, I think the wish build is still the best. Been pretty happy with that. And the last few cards in the main deck, one Pact of Negation, one Void Snare, and of course you need one Tome Scour in the main deck to have access to the combo as well, so I'll just put that aside because it's not that notable. Yeah, one Pact of Negation, really nice, just have access to it from your Wishclaw Talisman or whatever to protect your combo. Having a bounce valve in the main deck is pretty good too. Usually costing one less is more important than the Echoing Truth effect, but I have the one Echoing Truth in the sideboard as well. Just because having the mana cost across from 1 to 2 is important versus like Chalice of the Void, and it also has more utility versus like Rhino tokens, things like that. In the last 4 cards in the main deck, I have 2 Inquisition of Kozilek and 2 Spell Pairs. This split probably looks a bit weird. It's just the idea of when one copy of the first one is not so good, you really don't want to draw a second one. That can be pretty backbreaking. So you're just minimizing the chances of having too many dead cards in your hand by playing a split of effects that are slightly different. If I was forced to play like 4 copies of only one, then I'd probably play 4 Inquisition. I think it's better than Spell Pierce in the metagame at the moment. But yeah, it's pretty good, I think, to have the mix of both. If you want to fit more sideboard cards, or you don't like these for some reason, you can cut some of these for more Pact of Negations, like 1 or 2. And bring them in from the sideboard, then you have a few more sideboard slots. But as I say, that's just like a vague suggestion. Like, I'm very happy with the list that I was playing with the 2 Inquisition, 2 Pierce. I think it's good. Then onto the sideboard. 1 Grapeshot, of course, need a way to win the game. The Underworld Breach and the Tome Scour you need in your sideboard for the combo with Wish. So those 3 cards are locked in. Wish targets, we have 1 Engineered Explosives, 1 Mind Collapse, and 1 Aeve. Yeah, so Mind Collapse you never board in. It just stays in your sideboard all the time as a way to deal with like Eidolon or Dauthi Voidwalker. Engineered Explosives you do board in against decks that don't have Chalice, but they do have 1-drops or other types of hate permanent, or they're playing like Rhinos, for example, so you can clear their whole board, give yourself a few more turns to survive and sculpt your hand a bit. Yeah, now that I mentioned that, I can't remember what my sideboard plan is for Rhinos, because you have Echoing Truth to board in as well, so I think I do leave this in the sideboard versus them. But yeah, nice flexible option. And then the Aeve, like, relatively rare to use it, just because it costs so much mana, but when you play against like Graveyard Hate, for example, you know, it's just one of those cards that can dig you out of spots that no other card really can. And like I said before, I don't really think the deck is pressured to have other things in its sideboard slots, so I'm not unhappy with the one Aeve. And like I've been talking about, I've been playing the one Echoing Truth as well. Just more flexible bounce spells to deal with any types of weird permanents. I still like the one copy of Brooding Saurian. So what this does, at the beginning of each end step, each player gains control of all the permanents they own. So the combo obviously with this is with the Wishclaw. So usually what you do is you like play your like Lotus Field and you twiddle it for the mana, and then you activate your Wishclaw, get this and cast it. Then it brings your Wishclaw back. So next turn you can activate your Wishclaw, get another Wishclaw, or you can start searching for like your Pact of Negations and things like that to protect it. And in the end, you often don't even have to win with the combo. You can just start like using Demonic Tutor every turn and just protect your 4/4 and keep attacking. So you want to board it in the matchups where that seems likely to happen, right? Where your opponent doesn't have that much removal. Like either they're playing a combo deck themselves, or they're a deck like Rhinos, for example, that doesn't have such an easy time getting rid of a 4/4. Yeah, so it's a nice angle because especially in post-board games, usually your opponents will be boarding down on answers for creatures. Then the last 7 cards we have a Pact of Negation just to have more tools versus counterspell decks. Of course it stops like Endurance or Leyline Binding as well now in the format, so 0 mana counterspell, very strong, doesn't need much explanation. And I'm also playing for Leyline of Sanctity, so it's good versus burn. And then the decks that are very heavy on discard. Yeah, pretty straightforward. So, yep, that's the list. I don't think it's too bad. There's one guy in my locals who always plays like red-green Khan Ponza, which is like a nightmare matchup, but it's not really a wider part of the modern format, so if you're listening to this, you probably don't have to worry about that so much. But like a very, very tough matchup for this list is red-black Scam, because it has Blood Moon, of course, which is very hard for you to beat, and it also has Doughty Voidwalker, which you can't really beat either. Plus they're like a Thoughtseize Grief deck, so they have lots of other ways to disrupt you as well. That's a bit of a struggle, but like that's the main like very, very bad matchup. I think versus a lot of other decks is you're like even or even slightly favored, especially if your opponents don't know what they're doing against you, which comes up a lot. Like when they're not expecting things like you can tap their Tormod script end of turn to like disable it, or like weird things like that. It can give you quite a few percentage points that you otherwise wouldn't have. So yeah, I wasn't too unhappy with the deck. I thought it was performing acceptably well, but I couldn't quite grab an invite, so that was a bit disappointing. But yeah, I think it's very fun. One of the few reasonable combo decks you can play in Modern. Let me know what you think. Have you been playing a deck like this? Do you prefer with Wish, without the Wish? What's your build? Let me know in the comments. Any questions or feedback? Like and subscribe if you want to see more deck brews like this one. This has been Li-Fi TCG signing out.